I'm not going to read this because it's a little boring to read all these statistics. I just thought I would tell you a little bit about me and what I do at my company, because I don't know who's beginners and who's not. I started working for our firm about 6.5 years ago. And at the time, they just gave me buckets of paper and said, here, we need this scanned. And I had no idea. I never worked for a financial firm. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had tons and tons and tons of paper. And I looked, and we were using a vendor, and they didn't specialize in financial firms, so they didn't really know how to help me. But I'm very organized because I'm an accountant. And I said, there's got to be a better way. I don't know why anybody's doing this, and they didn't feel it was important. So for the first 4 years, they used it totally as a file cabinet. And however they filed it in the drawers, that's how they put it in Laserfiche. And we had 186 folders, and 2 years ago we made 10 folders. And I sat for hours and reorganized everything. And we still have paper everywhere, but it is my goal in life to make it paperless before I retire.
Keep going.
Okay. We still have a number of people that are extremely resistant, and it was nice to come to the conference and hear about ways to tell them that we have other ways to use it. And so the last year we were able to change many things by automating some of our processes. Okay. About 2.5 years ago, a group of us went to a presentation on financial firms, and someone got up and spoke and said, our office is entirely paperless. And we all had our aha moment and went, oh, my God, if one person can do it, so can we. So we sat down, we had a committee, and we decided what would be the easiest thing to do first. And we prioritized what we needed to do and said, okay, we need to start small, because nobody wanted to do anything. They all thought I was crazy, and why would I want to do this? And they felt that everything that had a signature you had to save. So that's where we are, and that's where we're going. And let me see what's first for us. So we were on Rio First, and we Avante first, and we've upgraded to Rio. And that part I don't have anything to do with. Angel does. And
well, the reason this was important is just to say that we upgraded from Avante to Rio so that we can use multiple servers. We can create multiple environments, and that helped us a lot with our testing and development, and being able to away from the production system, look at different ways to utilize Laserfiche than we were doing before, because as you said earlier, it was essentially solely being used to store documents. I mean, it was a big, giant digital file cabinet. There was no workflows in place. There was no digital forms. Everything was starting in paper format, and we wanted to move away from that model and move to a new model, and this was the first step in us being able to make that progress.
So these are the processes that we tackled first. The quarterly transaction report, is a employee compliance form. And after I went to the conference last year, the first thing I did when I got back was take all the forms I could find in the office and automate them and build forms, and had just beyond fun learning how to do it and creating them, and now I can do them 1, 2, 3, and it's just wonderful. And then we had a team working on the new account process, and they had been working on a form, and as soon as they realized we were going to go on Laserfiche, they stopped and then started doing everything in Laserfiche, and now the form has been completed. It's in final testing in our office, and we're really excited about it. And compliance statements are employee compliance statements that we took forever to do, and I'll explain more when we come up to that part.
And I just want to go back that the AIS, who we began partnering with, was extremely helpful and essential for us moving forward because, as Linda mentioned before, our prior partner was more specialized in the healthcare industry and didn't really understand our model and our regulations and what we need to do as a financial industry firm. So they came in, they understood our needs a lot better, and we were able to brainstorm and tackle some of these processes that we had that were still completely manual and start bringing them into the fold. I mean, we had, like I said, we had Laserfiche already, so it was just a matter of learning what else it was capable of doing and then implementing that into our firm.
And what helped us a great deal is every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
We have a group conference call with everybody on our team and everybody at AIS, and we know always at what stage we are in the process of doing anything, and then we'll meet internally and decide what new process we're going to do. So this is what we started doing. I mean, but we have a true partnership with our vendor. We would not have been able to do anything without them. So here is our quarterly transaction report. We had a manual system and a lot of paper. We had a 2-page form, one with a cover letter, one with a form. They would print it, staple it, hand it out individually to each employee. The employee would have to sign it and take it back to our compliance department. We have 2 floors, so it was either in our office envelope, so we wasted a lot of time. And then we had to scan it into their folder, and we couldn't put it in their folder because it took too much time, and we didn't, in the beginning, they didn't even have their name on the form. It took me 2 years to get compliance to just put their printed name on the form so that we could search for it if we needed to. So, and then it went to compliance, and they had a manual checklist and checked off each person's name as they sent it in. So all that has changed now. Of course, they still won't throw them out because they're compliance. Now we send an email out to all the employees with the form attached. The employee just has to put a 3-digit telephone extension in, and it auto-populates their name. They fill out the form, and they can't submit it unless they filled it out correctly, and it gets emailed to compliance, and they get an automatic email saying who turned it in and who hasn't submitted it yet. You can, sure. No, because we're going to go do 3 different topics.
That other screen,
sure.
It says something about filed in 2 locations simultaneously.
Right. There's something in Laserfiche called shortcut.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody know what shortcut is?
Yeah. So it's not actually physically copied in 2 locations. It's just so you can have 2 views.
Right. No, that's what they used to do. Before I came, they would say, oh, well, you need to scan it. No, you don't need to scan it in more than once ever.
What are the locations? It's by employee name? And
It's under the form, so if they need to look at all the forms are one place, and then it actually goes to the employee name, and the shortcut is to the form, so that it's in 2 places. And this is our form. And I took all the printed forms compliance, and I tried to make them as transparent as possible, so that if they had a form, I did the form.
And so what we did was we built a table in SQL that has all the employee information. We used the extension as their key identifier, and this is just because we didn't want employees typing in their names and any other pertinent information and typing it differently or misspelling something or putting the name slightly different than we have it registered. Somebody putting Jim instead of James or something, and then it would file it in a different location that time because the name is different. So we have that all automated by creating the table. They put in their extension because you take your extension with you no matter where you go throughout the life of the company. And then it'll auto-populate the rest going down for most of their personal information.
And then this is the second part of the form that they see.
Again, most of the form is hidden, so depending on your election, the form will expand and allow you to put in more information. So we just try to keep it as simple as possible so you don't have a very long form on your screen.
They can sign it or they can draw it, their signature. The drop-down menu shows you all the different ways that it can look. Everybody likes to play with the different signatures, I find. The nice part for me is that I report to the COO, and I just automatically do his form, and I can sign his name and submit it for him, because a lot of assistants do their supervisors' reports. This way they don't have to ask them. They don't have to make sure he does it. You can do it for them.
Well, there's a simplified version of we've actually changed this a little bit since then. And you can go to the next slide. And this is a bit more detailed, going through the sequence of from initiation to the user filling it out. And go to the next one. It's actually more.
Oops.
This is our first branch where we're meeting conditions. And we're basically just looking for where it's going to be filed depending on the date that's been assigned to the form. Go to one more. Whether or not the form has been reviewed, whether or not the form has been approved by compliance or rejected by compliance. We're assigning values to those so they can carry it forward. You can see all the branches. And what that's for is so that they can then run control reports. And click to the next one. I think we have a sample of a control report there.
Next one.
Yeah, and that's a sample of a control report. Doesn't have any data. And then this one has a little bit more data. And basically, they'll run a control report that'll show them everyone who has filed. Another report that'll show them the status of anyone who's filed, whether they're still pending, whether they have filed but they have not been reviewed yet, whether they have been reviewed, or whether their submission has been rejected. If it's getting rejected, that's what we changed. Go forward.
Where did you write your reports in?
Right in using the forms from Laserfiche. Uh-huh.
So we eliminated printing. We don't have to hand it out. They send one email to everyone. The nice part is, like, if somebody, I am not perfect. I had a typo that I could go in and fix it. And if you waited until after I fixed it, you don't have to send a new email. It automatically updates the email, the link on the email. Anybody have any other questions?
Yeah, before the questions, there's one thing that we changed that I think you'll find pretty interesting is what we did was originally when somebody would file and the status was somebody would review it and change the status to whatever they wanted, it was set up so that if it was rejected, the user would get a rejection notice and then they could resubmit and it would overwrite their previous submission. But we changed that now. So what we're doing now is that the compliance department has the ability to put a comment in the metadata. So when they send a rejection, it's going to grab that comment that they've put in and send it in the email back to the user because the user's email address is also part of that database where we added all the user information. So they'll get an email with compliance notes telling them why they were rejected so they could resubmit. When they resubmit now, we are saving it as a second form so we can keep the trail of their first submission. So now we have the rejection, then we have the new one with a new status, and then once they set the status on that, whether they have now approved the new one, it'll pick that one up instead. So it gives us a better trail of the of the forms, including the ones that were prior rejected. Questions? Yes.
Do you save anything or manage the information in your HR application? So the person has the ability to look at the HR, because in my world there are many types of monitoring or compliance forms that we have to do for training and certifications, and so we're trying to figure out the best way to manage that from an account side of things, and I think passing that to the HR group is a better way to do it.
It's a much better way to do it.
Yeah.
It's a much better way to do it. Because we have a lot of, when you're in financial, you have a lot of compliance forms that have to be signed. And that's one of the things I'm doing when I'm going back. We're going to attach them all to one email, and they're going to sign them online and send them back.
Well, that's also one of the reasons we saved the 2 locations.
Right.
We have the 2 views. Let me not say save the 2 locations again. One view is so that HR, for example, can look on the employee side and look at all the forms that are relevant to that employee. So under the employee's name, all the forms that they've submitted will be under their name as well. So that's their view. Then the other view is really for compliance. They really just want to see the form, the date, and the list of people. So they have that other view for them. But yeah, that's something that we're looking at, and we're looking to incorporate more HR stuff.
So that conversation has come up.
Oh, yes, it
Yeah,
definitely
it
has.
all depends which part. We're just looking at the compliance part of HR now. Because we, like every other firm, we have great resistance to using the product. I have goals.
Well, part of that also has to do with security. HR wants to make sure that that things that are personal information to each employee is properly secured so that other people can't see it. Even compliance, if compliance is looking at something compliance related for that employee, that they're not able to see other things.
Yeah,
but we find that
everybody's afraid.
Yeah, we can guard for that pretty easy within Laserfiche, but you have to build confidence with your users so they can see, oh, yeah, all right, it is safe, it's secure. I'm the only one who can see that particular information.
Right. They're really afraid that when they go in and see what they're looking at, that everybody
can see the same thing. Yeah.
It's very hard to explain that can't happen. So, it's hard for you to make people understand things that are totally alien to them. But we have, hope is eternal. It's how I have to look at it. Everything's eventually.
Have you had some employees who have seen the light and have flipped over and become?
Yes, we have other employees here.
Okay.
Yes. It took a good while for some to see the benefit, but the ones that see the benefit are all work together.
Well, in this one form alone, the majority of the firm has jumped on board because it's easier for them. They get the email, they click on the link, they fill out the form, they hit send, they're done. So the only people who don't are just people who don't read their emails.
Yeah, there are people in our office that still print every email and read it that way, and they're not all older. So there's just. There's people that still give me a paper calendar, and I don't understand. So, and they don't understand why I don't want one. So, and every office is like that. It's not, no problem's unique. That's the one thing I've discovered.
Yeah, but it's definitely a much more efficient process, and the way you measure it is how many responses you get within a period of time. The vast majority, 75-80% of the firm will respond within the first 2 days. And this is a particular form that used to take all month to try to collect that type of percentage returned. And you're always chasing stragglers at the end of the period. So we've gone from collecting that same amount in, let's say, 28 of the 30 days of the month to collecting it in the first 2 days of the month. And the form itself is much more accurate because you can't click on the wrong thing.
Well, you can't submit it.
Are you using Laserfiche to go back and harass those that are not?
Originally, we did.
Another sensitive subject.
Yeah, but just putting in a reminder of the submission. But compliance didn't like it. They didn't want us to remind people that they hadn't submitted.
No, they want them to be adults.
But it's a new process, and we want people to get used to doing more and more things this way, where we're moving virtually every employee compliance form has already been done, so this is the way they're going to be doing all of them. So it would be nice if you set up something like this to at least initially send out reminders that it's no longer a manual process. Check your inbox; it's in there somewhere. Scroll down, find it, click on it, get it done.
The reminder, actually put it in your Outlook calendar, and it would pop up and say it's due in 5 days, and they took it off. I thought it was terrific, because some people in the office get so many emails that it just goes right past them. I know I have to go to my boss. So-and-so sent you an email. Please read it. Oh, okay. And he'll look at it. Because he gets hundreds. He doesn't look at half of them. So.
Nobody reads any email titled compliance anyway.
Right.
That's okay. They don't read any email titled IT either. So it evens out.
We're going to go through this part quickly because
it's long.
And I have nothing to do with it.
Oh, you want me to get up?
Well, no, you don't have to. You can sit.
I was kidding. New account form. New account forms was a huge challenge for us because there are so many different components for us. We have so many different types of accounts. So what we were doing, or decided to do, was find a way to integrate all that in one workflow. So what we, you can see, there's more steps here. Each one of these boxes probably represents a series of steps. Again, because the whole new account onboarding process was so complicated. We have so many diversified type of clients and so many different forms associated with that type of client that it was always a challenge to make sure that when an account is being opened, we have all the necessary information to open all the components related to that particular account. So we found that creating a custom form within Laserfiche, and a series of workflows to ensure that all those components that you needed for any one particular account opening is now in place. This is an example of what the form looks like initially. Just putting in some of the general information. But as you add more information, again, similar to what we did to the prior form, more forms become available to you, or more boxes open up so that you can put in the information that's necessary for that particular type of client, which you wouldn't have to for other clients who don't have the particular type. Again, it's several radio buttons that you need to click on to, again, give us the information for that particular client that was often missing when we had paper forms, because if you don't check all these, we won't allow you to submit. And if you can't submit, we won't open it. Again, this is an example of one of the areas where you have to pick the account type, and depending on the election here, other forms that you need to fill out are going to pop in for you. So we keep all those other forms hidden again, so we can try to make the initial form look as compact as possible, and only let it expand when it needs to, when it needs additional information to your election.
Did you do this in stages?
Yeah. Before it got rolled up, yeah, it was done in stages because it's not only one person that's doing it either. There are different areas that need to touch it. So we wanted to go through a process where when one person has completed their area, that it flows forward to the next group who's going to handle it. And because it's not a particular individual, it's an entire group, let the group get notified that this is now sitting in your inbox. One of you guys need to take care of this, do their particular portion, and let it continue flowing forward to the next group of responsibility.
How are you capturing that client signature on a new account form?
What we're doing now, and that's one of the areas at the very end of this, is we're looking at Signex to do that last piece for us, because right now, we're not capturing it digitally yet. The client signature, that is. So we're looking to incorporate that last piece so that they can sign our form, because what we're using our form for as well is not only to have it complete for our onboarding process, but to also populate our portfolio system. So we have our client accounting system, and a lot of that information needs to get transferred into that. What was happening before is that once all that paper was compiled together, another human was then typing all that into our portfolio accounting system. Then another human was typing all that same information again into our custodian's accounting system, which is Pershing.
Temporarily, we did a client worksheet because we have a lot of older PMs and we have a lot of older clients, and they're not going to do either one. So we have a worksheet that they fill out if they go visit the client or the client comes to the office, and they're signing that at the moment.
You sign like a worksheet, cover sheet.
Yes.
Then do you
Right,
go
I
back and
do-
amend that page to, do you add that page?
No,
to the form?
we're going to scan that and upload it with the application.
Until we go
It'll
fully
go on the-
digital on the signatures
Yeah.
as well.
There'll always be some that won't do it.
There's always somebody. So we had to take that into account. So I did a form in Word, and it'll need to be done that way. Old dogs, new tricks.
Yep. So we included in the process, of course, for compliance. They have their portion as well, checking to make sure that the client name isn't on any terrorist lists or things of that nature. So we've incorporated all those different components into the one form. Again, here we are, processing moving forward, the next level going through. And again, this is just going through all the different portions of the form where it used to be handed from person to person. Now it's all electronic, and it just notifies them when it's their turn to go and fill out the next portion of it. So just a summary of some of the benefits that we've picked up by doing this all electronically. And again, it's speed, accuracy, making sure that all the information is filled out, getting that information transferred into other systems now, because we then extract the information, we pull the metadata from it, and we feed that directly to our portfolio accounting system. We will soon be able to pull that information and give it directly to our vendor as well for our custodian, so they can populate their information. We'll actually base some of it on their form so that we could easily pull all the elements that they need and give that to them as well, so that with the one filing, we can open the account in two different places.
Does your new account form template actually have a metadata field for every element of information that's on the NAF?
Every element, yes.
So it's a huge,
Yeah.
big old-
Well, that's why we hide everything we don't need. Because if you look at it and you expand the whole thing out, it's ridiculously long. So we only have the components pop up as you reach it and as you need it, depending on the portfolio type and what else is required for it. Those elements pop up.
Everything.
Everything. Yeah. So it took a while to pull together.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was noticing on your workflow you had escalation levels.
Yeah.
Is that like in hours or in days? And does that escalation send an email to the party that's waiting for the entry chain?
It's email driven, yes.
It's email.
Yeah. And
I do the same thing at work, but like some of our forms, they should take 2 days to process, 4 days. But I see a lot of supervisors just deleting that email, that escalation email. You have a document that's sitting for more than 2 days. They don't.
yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not
That's bad.
one person. Like some emails go to group, and we have others that we're looking at that's more of a round robin where you can keep hitting each person until one of them responds. Hopefully, yeah, and just keep email. I'm a fan of keep sending it over and over and over again until somebody responds.
Right.
Because if you're going to automate it anyway, you might as well keep bombarding them.
The
Yes.
only thing on our side with this is that if you email it, it's time, date, and stamped.
Yeah.
And that unnerves a great many people in the office.
Sorry.
Really, it
Go ahead.
does. So hopefully that'll make it go better.
Well, that actually
Do you
comes
wanna
in
repeat
really,
that?
really handy. I mean, that works very, very, very well. And what we like about that, of course, is that getting information that you've already collected and rekeying it opens up the opportunity for Keypunch errors and the account actually physically being opened having different criteria than what was originally set on the paper. So that virtually eliminates that, and that as long as the original submission is correct, that's what we're going to open. It's going to match that form. We use APX. Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead. On the form itself? Well, it does go through a review process. So if it's something, oh, well, that's different. If the allocation changes at a later date, then that's an amendment that's done outside of this initial opening period. So that'll be treated separately. That usually comes to the portfolio manager, and then so he would have to submit that. So we're not so much updating this as we would be adding something else behind it, an updated form behind it. Sure, go ahead.
It looks like on the screen we had business process for routing entities in workflows versus in forms.
Yes.
Is there a benefit you found in doing so?
First, I think we have, because it's such a large, complicated piece, it was a lot easier to do in workflow, so we can do all these different components of it and have one thing kick off the next than to do it in forms. I mean, I love forms, but I think you have more power on the workflow side.
I have one question.
Sure.
So your new accounts, the account number, that's being assigned by your data management department. So forms couldn't just automatically spit out
No, that's one of the places where it stops. The process stops and rolls over to them, and it waits for them to populate that.
Yes, because it has to be reviewed by compliance. Compliance has to sign off first before we assign an account number.
So it'll flow to data management after that. Data management has enough information up to that point to get the account number generated. Then they'll populate the account number, and then it'll continue flowing forward from there. So that's where there are few places where it stops, waiting for additional information.
Yes.
I was wondering if you were the top management of the firm for all your efforts, do you view it as something that's nice, or is it something that's really central to the functioning of the firm and really helping them succeed? Because, also, to what level do they support this internally? It's like, oh yeah, don't bother people with it. They say, go ahead and do whatever you have to do.
I call this man the enforcer. Because he doesn't give upper management's not giving choices. It's mandatory.
Yeah, we don't tell them everything we can and can't do sometimes. We just tell them what we need to do and limit the options as much as humanly possible. And there are times where you have to just say, if we're going to go in this direction, we need to put this process in place and not give a lot of leeway to that particular item being done. Because a lot of these things, these type of processes will get stuck in committee forever, reviewing.
Would they view it chiefly as a way to save money, or as a way to make the firm more efficient?
More efficient. We want less paper.
Well, it does both, to be honest with you.
And we need other departments to have access to certain things. Right now, what they're after it goes to data management, the admin will get a copy of the form and they've put it in a file in a drawer. I mean, there's no reason to do all that because then they have to refer back to it. It's so much easier if they looked it up in Laserfiche. So efficiency, the fact that we don't, if once it's submitted online, I mean, we don't want them to print it out and put it in a folder. We're going to have people that will print it out and put it in a folder. I know that. That I can't do anything about, but the system is just, we're just trying to make it much easier for everyone.
Yeah, efficiency and accuracy. You pick up a lot of accuracy when you start automating these type of procedures. So you eliminate a lot of things having to be redone or things that slow the whole process down and delays an account from being opened. Yes.
You mentioned you're about to implement or looking at Sinex as a solution for electronic signatures. So I guess two questions. One is what led you to that as a
Well, we do that for the forms that are internal to the employees. But when you want to get a signature from a client who's outside of your firm, then we can't utilize that. Right. So we need a third-party service that the client can then, from their desktop at home, accept the form, give us a digital signature, and send it back, and pull that into the form.
Grab the metadata from Sinex and use that to verify.
Right.
We will.
Signature is electronic.
Exactly.
Have you considered that internally for your from the employees of the corporation as well, or are you still using?
Well, I don't. If we needed to do have an employee signature be verified in that manner, or have an employee signature be verified when they're outside the firm, so if they're submitting something from outside the firewall, for example, then we might have to do that. But right now, we don't have any instances where we've had to do it. Yep.
Do you use this as a public-facing process too? So say, for example, your advisor is opening an account and they're missing a piece of the client's information. Can they have the client at some point go in and fill in this information?
Yeah, that's when we start talking about getting pieces from it externally, especially a signature, which is where we would need that particular type of a third party to do that for us. But right now, it's mostly internal. But we are looking at some components where we may need to expand it and get information directly from the client, let them fill it out directly themselves. So that would be public facing. So yeah, I can see that. But it would be easy to bring that into the process. No more questions? Then I can get off the podium. Last piece.
As you know, all employees have to have a copy of their financial statements sent to compliance, all their financial statements. So, because nobody really understood Laserfiche, neither did I when I first started, a folder was set up for each employee, and we put it under the year, the month, it took like 2 or 3 days to get all the employees' statements scanned in. So, and it was making me crazy. So, with the help of our vendor, they did a QuickFields, and what took us 2 or 3 days takes us like around 2 hours to do that. You don't have to put anything in order. You just open the statements and you put them stacks in the scanner, and it goes right to the employee in the proper month, the proper date, and if a new account, if there's a new account, let me show you. Here's what our statement looks like, and it took Keyfields. So all we had to do was worry about the date and the account number that's blacked out. So I had to supply them with a list of all the employees and the account numbers that are associated with them. So it was only 2 fields, so it's really that easy. And we have different clearing, and then we have outside accounts. So at the bottom of the page, on a second page or a third page, it would have the account number there, and it would know to read it. I'm going to go quickly because we're out of time. What I want to tell you is we had a 2-year backlog, and it was done in less than 6 weeks. Less than 6 weeks with doing other functions. That it's changed everything, and I refuse to staple them and file them under the employee. So because they haven't let me shred anything yet, that's a lot will be shredded soon. It just made everything easy. This is a form that was developed so that if there's a brand new account, then we just have to go in and we have all these options to do different functions, but we'll add a new account, and the employee's name pops up on a drop-down menu, and it's just very easy. Everything's like user-friendly. But it took something that was very cumbersome, and now it's like you don't even have to. And starting very shortly, we're going to upload them electronically. We're not going to do away with the paper. We're just going to have the away accounts to worry about, which is a very small amount.
Who is generating these reports? Is that your reports of these compliance statements? Are you generating them?
They come from our custodian.
Okay.
We have 2 at the moment, so
Yeah, they're hard copies from the custodian. That's why they're using QuickFields to map out particular areas so that it can ID it and process it automatically without her having to stop there at each form and pre-populate some of the information.
But the nice thing was when we talked about electronic and how we could get them, because we use, one of the custodians gives us a disk with all the statements for everyone, for all our clients too, but you can't download anything from that. So we're going to do something in, is it APX? Yes. Or NetX 360.
NetX 360.
NetX 360. And we're going to drop the statements in there and send them electronically to Laserfiche.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it's the same process.
It's a minor tweak.
Just starting getting the form electronically initially from the custodian, as opposed to getting a paper form which we then have to scan, and then do the same process starting with a digital. So
that we just have to take the workflow that we already had set up and tweak it to allow for electronic, and reduce a lot of paper, and cut down a lot of money if they don't have to mail them. You pay a lot of money to get all those compliance copies.
What is stopping you now from just drawing paper? Is it because of compliance issues, or the storage isn't trustworthy?
It's not because the storage isn't trustworthy. We have a lot of people that just want to keep paper. And it's not unusual.
Well, it's not a regulatory issue.
Right.
They can be destroyed.
Right. It's not a regulatory issue.
It's a people issue. Please don't destroy these documents.
When in our firm, we had our chief compliance officer said, if it has an original signature on it, you have to keep it. So I went to him one day and I said, I need you to show me where it says that in black and white. If it's your preference, I'll I'll honor your request. But don't hand me, say, here's all the rules and regulations. I can't find it. So if firms have gone paperless, that rule does not exist, is what I've learned. So that's why it's really changed my life. And I don't worry about certain things anymore, because you can't alter anything. You can't change anything. And people don't, it's hard to make people understand it, just what it does.
Just a comment on that. Laserfiche has a ton of resources. If you're encountering this in your organization and you need to show them how you can utilize electronic storage or can remove these things, Laserfiche's done a great job. Tim Walsh in the back there's helped write a lot of the white papers that help counter this compliance confusion. And they've got sample letters, they've got all the regulations in there, which shows how Laserfiche meets all those requirements. So definitely utilize either the solutions exchange or talk to your VAR or your regional manager, and they can help you with getting the documentation necessary to show that you can utilize a system like Laserfiche.
Yeah, we just move ahead. We pretend it's not happening, and we just move ahead. And he tells them they don't have a choice, and you don't have a choice. Otherwise, you just get lost in paper.
So you signed off on it, watched in and recognized as a digital.
Yes.
They actually prefer it because it helps. It's a much faster turnaround when they have requests.
Yeah, when we get an audit and they ask me for things, I give it to them within 5 minutes, everything. And everybody else has a certain amount of days to get back the information. And just to tell you this little tidbit, because you'll enjoy this, we just had a big audit, and they had to give them everything electronically. And after it was done, they printed it out and bound it in a book and handed it out to people. Okay? So that's why I thought that. We'll end it there.
Yeah.
So
But again,
that's what we're up
even the
against.
Regulatory agencies are moving to more electronic. They just want everything digital. It's easier for them.
Well, FINRA's all upload now.
Oh, yeah.
Anything they want, they upload. They don't even want to. They don't want a CD. They don't want a flash drive. They don't want anything. Upload it on the here's the case number, upload the information. So if they don't want anything, then why should we keep it, right?
No other questions?
Any questions?
Great. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
attending.
Good luck.